What's going on? Welcome back to the Roto Heat Fantasy Football Advice YouTube channel. We're doing a first ever best ball episode here. So join with me. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Hopefully I get your name right. It's James Brimacombe.
Yep, Brimacombe. Got it.
Eagles on Twitter. Anyone that plays best ball, I'm sure knows the name, knows the man, the myth, the mystery, all that kind of thing. So like I said, I've been looking forward to this for a long time to chat best ball and hit the streets with you. James, how you doing? Who are you? Where can we find your work?
I'm normal guy, just living the good family life and drafting best ball teams when I can on the side. Kids to bed, throw in a few teams, but yeah, you can find me just basically on Twitter at James Brimacombe. I do a lot of stuff on Football Guys as well. So you'll see some stuff there, mainly kind of during leading up to the best ball and whatnot. So that's usually where I'm at. I like to share kind of like my whole process, and I'll just share anything. If you ever have a question on Twitter or whatever about best ball, just let me know. And usually I can, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not afraid to kind of show you inside my game. So
Yeah, I can certainly vouch for that. We've chatted back and forth a little bit here and there on on Twitter about best ball, and certainly had a draft or 10 or 20 together. So yeah,
yeah.
definitely can vouch for the follow. Go ahead and follow James Brimacombe on Twitter, Eagles, and you won't be sorry. And like you said, any kind of questions, and something I really appreciate about you is you share all your exposures, all of your drafts, how many drafts you've done, over 2,100 in this past season long best ball season. So I appreciate the transparency, and I try to do that myself as well, because I'm sure we'll get to it a little bit in this episode. No matter what you think, someone else thinks the same thing or knows the same thing, and you can try to be unique, but especially with these these playoff best ball drafts, someone else is thinking the exact same thing. So don't try to, there's no reason to try to be, sneaky and think you know more than the other guy.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, sometimes it helps your confidence, and you get in a rhythm, and then you draft another team and another team. So yeah, there's all the playoff best ball. It is a lot of fun. So yeah, I think we can hit on all those points along the way here tonight. So
Yeah, it's about kind of getting those reps in. I think I looked back I'm at, I think, 32 gauntlet teams right now. I look back at the ones I did, the first 3 or 4, and it's just an absolute mess. So
right.
it definitely takes, a few drafts to even get into the rhythm to know what you're going to do and how you're going to attack these things. Because especially with the playoff drafts, they're super, super unpredictable. So you kind of have to take what the draft gives you.
Yep, for sure.
But let's jump right into this. We're going to talk a little bit of strategy, my strategy, a little bit of your strategy. I'm sure they'll come together a little bit, and then a little later on, we're going to do a draft. So if anyone's in the chat, if you have questions or anything like that, fire them in there. If you want to draft with us, we'll let you know before we hit that up and jump in the draft with us. So obviously, what is Underdog? What is best ball? So Underdog is the only place that I do my best ball drafting. I know James, you draft on DK and drafters and things like that, and maybe I'll get into that at some point. But I gotta start maxing out these tournaments before I move on to other sites personally. So it's the best, easiest way to play fantasy football, in my opinion. I love the interface. The mobile website the mobile app is fantastic, especially for the playoff ones. To be honest, for myself, I like to do the season-long drafts on a computer. It's just easier. The layout's a little bit better. I can put players in my queue easier. I can see everything. But 100% recommend Underdog Best Ball, and use promo code Roto Heat. That's all capitals, Roto Heat. You can see it in the top right corner there. And so that's basically what Underdog is. Best Ball. James, what would you say if someone asked, what is best ball? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, actually. So I'll tell them, like, all my friends know I'm into fantasy football and whatnot, and they're asking me about trades and about should I pick this guy up on the waiver wire? And they know I draft like hundreds and hundreds of teams and all that. And it's like, honestly, I have no idea what trade value is, what waiver wires. Like, I could care less. I don't have time for that. But yeah, basically that's what best ball. Yeah, it's all about focus on the draft, the initial draft. You have, like, in these playoff ones, the regular season, you have 18 rounds, and you have to make every one of those rounds count. Or maybe you have some strategy in there, like, hey, maybe this player I take later, he's going to miss 6 weeks or whatever, and then he's going to come back and help me in tournament settings. But as far as like playoffs, you have 10 picks, and you really want to get the most out of each one of those picks. So it's kind of like there's like 10 games inside of the game of best ball. So there's so much strategy, especially in these top heavy tournaments, huge prizes up top. But yeah, best ball is all focused on the draft. It is, you draft those players, and those are who you're stuck with. If the guy breaks his leg the first play of the game, he's going to be on your team no matter what throughout the whole contest. So yeah, some people, it's a hard transition to come from regular season redraft, because you're so used to the waivers and just next guy up. But there's a lot of strategy involved in best ball. But you have that pure fun of the draft, and then you can kind of sit back and kind of watch these teams. And yeah, I drafted a high volume, so I like to kind of check out my player exposures and what kind of percentages I am. And I don't like to take crazy risk, so because I know injuries will happen, and that's just part of the game, and so many unforeseen things that are going to come up. So yeah, I don't know if that explained best well, but the best way for me to explain it is just like, it's just like this initial draft, and it's an addiction, and you're just going to want to draft more and more, and it's just fun. Like, at the end of the day, it's really, really, really fun game. So
Yeah, if you like drafting, if drafting is the funnest part about fantasy football for you, it's a lot of it is for me. I love the off season and then the lead up to the season. I honestly love that more than the NFL season itself. That's when I try to become a fan of, my Bengals, and I just become a fan of the game. I'm not trying to, figure out who to draft and what to do and who's gonna do what stats wise throughout the season. And that's the beauty of best ball as well, is you draft your team, the best players are inserted in your lineup automatically. You're not, in there trading, setting lineups, waivers, all that kind of stuff. You kind of set it and forget it. As soon as the draft's over, you're done. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, everything that you said, and that on top, that's kind of what best ball is. And to me, it's quickly, very, very quickly become my favorite, format for fantasy football, just because I love drafting. And it's quick, it's easy. Boom, you jump in a draft, it's full, and you're off to the races. So we'll talk a little bit about contest selection. Maybe I'll share my screen quickly on this to jump into the Underdog. Let's go like that. Jump on the Underdog website here. So right now there's only the gauntlet, which is the $25 entry, and then the big mitten, which is $250, only 900 entrants. I'm not getting any in the big mitten. I'm not sure if you are, James, but it's quite a big tournament. There will be, and there was, the mitten 1, the mitten 2, $5 entry. I think there's just over 50,000 entries in those two tournaments. So those are certainly, tournaments that you can jump in, get your feet wet. $5. It's basically a coffee at Starbucks. Get your feet wet, pound out a bunch of those mittens. We were talking pre-show about getting those reps, just drafting, getting reps, and then you figure out what's what, how the drafts are going, where ADPs are going to lie. ADP is something that's also very, very important. But right now it's basically just the gauntlet. So James, I know you like the mittens. And then the gauntlet as well. I think you're probably trying to max enter these guys, or what?
Yeah, like, I have mixed feelings on the gauntlet. Same with Best Ball Mania, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I think contest selection, especially as far as best ball continues to grow the way it is, you have to be careful. You have to be careful. Like, just not $25 is a decent amount. If you just keep throwing $25 out there, it adds up pretty quick. And honestly, I don't love the formats of those. Like, obviously, you're drawn to those because the huge top prizes. But I think a lot of people even jumped in Best Ball Mania this year thinking the same thing. Like, hey, like everyone's doing it, and I want to get in. And I had 54 teams advance in that Best Ball Mania out of round one, and I did not make any teams into the finals, and I ended up losing, like over $1,000. And that's having like a third of my entries making it out of the first round. So they're just like brutal, hard. They just kind of they can be really enjoyable. And the dream of winning that big money is always there. But yeah, I would just caution people to be careful, especially in the gauntlet. I think the gauntlet's all right. I probably will max it out. I think I'm at like 90 entries right now, so I'm hitting that hard. But that's because I came into, like, I hit one of the battle royales one week, so I had a little bit more cash. But initially coming in, I was like, I'll put in like 40 or 50. But yeah, now I'm probably gonna max it out, using lots of different strategies along the way. So I wasn't trying to bash on it or anything, but I think contest selection, just like DFS, has been around for so many years now, and people are starting to learn. It's not guaranteed. And even the big mitten, like, I haven't drafted in that, but to be honest, you're probably gonna have a better chance throwing one entry in there than you would 10 entries in the gauntlet. But that's a really tough pill to swallow, and I honestly don't draft anything over $25.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you bank a huge tournament and you got a massive bankroll that you can go ahead and I would say, with the big mitten, I would want to do at least 10 if I had the bankroll. So I'm obviously doing zero big mitten drafts here, but like, yeah, just to get some exposure to different strategies, which we'll get into a little bit. But I agree. I don't go anything above the gauntlet, and we'll see how many I get into. I'm at, I think, 32 right now, and I might get up to 50 and 75 tops, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
But just so I can get enough exposure to different strategies that, I'm giving myself a reasonable shot. If you want to take a shot on, I'd rather do 5 mittens than 1 gauntlet. That's for sure. Right. So stuff like that. And I think it's super important for contest selection as well. I think you preach it actually quite a bit on Twitter about, if you can max out a tournament, max out the $5 puppies, mittens, that sort of a thing, instead of, trying to get 50 gauntlet or Best Ball Mania entries, something like that, right? Get yourself more exposure to one tournament. It's the same kind of dollar value, and you're getting more kind of run for your money. And to be honest, a better shot at, a decent payday of 20K or more, sort of thing. So
yeah.
I definitely agree with that.
I have like a quick example. Sorry, I keep like having all these thoughts that come
No,
in,
go ahead.
But yeah, just like with Best Ball Mania, $25. But then Underdog offered a puppy 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a puppy super flex. So that's 5 tournaments. You could max all 5 of those for the exact same price it would cost you to max the Best Ball Mania.
There you
And
go.
and right there, Zeke, I told you I maxed the Best Ball Mania 0 to the finals. I maxed all those other ones, and I had like 9 teams in the finals combined. So now I have 9 shots compared to 0. And I have one team sitting in 3rd place right now for like 25K, which,
Nice.
yeah. So, I mean, you can still have the excitement of big prizes, but you don't have to chase these huge contests. But also,
Yes. Same.
everyone wants the glory of the big payday, and like, that's
Yeah.
fun too. But there's other ways to succeed in best ball, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I had 50 in each of the puppies and then 100 in the Best Ball Mania. And my one team that ended up in the finals was in the puppy 3. So
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. And to be honest, like, people might say like, oh, out of all those teams, I drafted 357. I had 357 this year. I had one team in the finals. It's
Yep.
not that easy to get in the finals. So Yeah, it's a tough. So again, contest selection. If I had been a little better off, maybe I go 50 in the Best Ball Mania and spread it out towards the puppies a little more. I might be singing a different tune right now. So definitely contest selection, something that people need to be aware of, I think. So let's move on to get a little deeper into this. Talk about some teams that we're targeting, maybe some players, or how do you look at it? Do you target individual players like you would in a season long, or obviously are you looking at targeting certain teams? And I'll pull up the standings here while we chat.
For playoffs, it's definitely, I'm not even looking at ADPs or I think that's deceiving, to be honest. I don't, and obviously they'll change when people like get on a certain team. So you're going to see all those players ADP rise. So they're going to be harder here and there to get. But I'm constantly looking for the value of teams, not even so much the value of players. In the playoff ones too, like there's different things you'll learn the more you draft. Definitely quarterbacks. Like you have to get that quarterback. That's kind of like your core piece. So you want that quarterback, and that's basically the team you're banking on to get to the Super Bowl. So if you wait on quarterback, you might get stuck. Like you could be going the Kirk Cousins route, or even further down if you keep waiting, it could be you're going Tom Brady or something like that, and that's or Lamar Jackson, and yeah, they still have a chance to get the Super Bowl, but it's going to be a lot harder. So I really look at that piece the first, and then once I get that QB or that team, I instantly go down my queue in Underdog and I go Josh Allen. I type in Bills and put like the next 6 Bills in my queue, just like automatically. That's the first thing I'll do. And then once I do that, I'll put like NFC players in there to offset. So like I'm never gonna. I don't do it very often where I say I take AFC team as my core, like I take any other AFC players. Sometimes I will, just to be like a little different and maybe help me in the first round or two, but I'm not doing that very often. But
yeah, what I like to look at is I'll take the teams that I think have the legitimate shot at getting to the Super Bowl, and those are basically the only teams that I'll draft players from. It'll be right now for me, you got the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, obviously. Those are the top 3 in the AFC. So I'm drafting tons of those guys. And then Eagles and 49ers in the AFC. And a little bit, I'm sprinkling some other teams, Buccaneers, Cowboys, even Vikings, Chargers. I've got Ravens. Obviously, I'm sprinkling everywhere else, but you want to look at the Super Bowl. That's the ultimate goal. That's obviously the final game in this whole tournament. So you want to have at least, like you said, the quarterback. You want to have a quarterback in the Super Bowl, and then obviously a running back from one of the 2 teams. You want to basically fill out your roster. So if we look at the roster construction here, you're starting one quarterback, one running back, 2 wide receiver or tight end, and 1 flex. Sure. So basically, you got to fill that team with the 2 teams that are in the Super Bowl, right? So in order to have a chance at winning the top prize. So that's 5 players that you kind of have to have in that final game. So right. Yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it is I pick at least 1 team from the AFC, 1 team from the NFC, or maybe, and we'll get into a couple examples here in a second. So maybe 1 team from the AFC, 2 from the NFC, or vice versa, that sort of thing. So you're nailing down, and hopefully you get that Super Bowl matchup, and you give yourself the best chance to win kind of top prize there.
Yep. No. Yeah, that's right. And as you see, you only need 1 QB and 1 running back, right? So like there's that brings a fun strategy too. Definitely the number 1 seeds you want to worry about. So like the Eagles or the Chiefs or the Bills, like that's kind of the last like 3 weeks I've been having a hard time like building out those teams, like huge stacks with those teams. So usually I like to stick to 2 or 3 of them. I don't like the layout where it's only 1 out of 6 advance out of the first round. I feel like that limits you on taking more shots on those number 1 seeds. So I think the Mitten one was like 2 out of 6 advance out of the first round, and there you could build a team like 5 Bills or 5 Eagles, and you'd still be okay. Like, I think, because then you're trying to shoot for that second place finish with your other 5 guys to make to the next round. And then there's going to be a lot less five player stacks of like the Eagles in round 2. Like, those teams aren't going to make it out of round 1. So that's like a huge strategy I look at. I really feel like this year, like the top teams, they have a good chance to get to the Super Bowl. And I would love if both like the number 1 seeds made it to the Super Bowl. I think this contest would be really, really fun.
Yeah, that'd be best ball chaos. That's for sure.
No, it'd be great. It'd be all about like what pods you get lined up in. And maybe round 1, like, I don't know, maybe it's like McCole Hardman goes for 30 points, but you needed him to get out, or just something weird you're gonna need. So
yeah, I think the odds are neither team last year was a number 1 seed, so neither team had the first round bye, and that's not normal, right? So odds are that, at the very least, one number 1 seed is gonna make it to the Super Bowl this year. So honestly, I have taken that into consideration. I'll show my exposure in a second here, and it's pretty obvious. One of the teams it's obvious the 2 teams that I like to make the Super Bowl. So let's get into some roster construction a little bit. Might as well just jump into that since I brought it up. So I'll show my exposure. 32 teams, like I said, 32 gauntlets. I didn't do any puppies. I didn't want to get into it too early, if I'm being honest. I like to know as much as I can. I know that there's some benefits to drafting early. There certainly is, but to be honest, I don't want to just burn through $25 drafting Seattle Seahawks or even Miami Dolphins and things like that. So the more I know, honestly, the better. So here's my exposure, and I think it's pretty obvious the 2 teams I think are making the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Obviously my bias might be showing a little bit, but the Bengals have a very, very good team this year, and they certainly have a very good shot at getting back to the Super Bowl. So, which leads me kind of into a little more of the structure that we're talking about, the roster construction structure. So obviously you can see Jalen Hurts. That forces me to draft 2 quarterbacks. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no way around it. I have to draft 2 quarterbacks anytime I draft Jalen Hurts.
Okay, where are you drafting that quarterback, like the second QB? Because are you going 10th round Daniel Jones? Because then I think it's a stronger team. Probably you can build out. But if you're taking a 5th round like Justin Herbert, that's going to hurt your Jalen Hurts teams, in my opinion. So
so you can see Lamar Jackson there. That's a big reason. That's a big reason why he's so high in my exposure, because I've been doing a lot of Jalen Hurts, and realistically, what I'm planning on is only needing Lamar Jackson for that one first round, the wild card round. That's all I really need. Even if the Ravens lose, because they're probably going to be the 6th seed. They're probably going to play either the Bengals, Bills, or Chiefs. They're going to have to, there's going to be points there. And whether he wins or loses, I think Lamar Jackson is going to be able to put up a good score to hopefully get me to the 2nd round, where then I can ride Jalen Hurts. That's my thought process here. It's getting a little harder to draft Justin Herbert, like you mentioned. I love Justin Herbert, absolutely, but I think people are starting to catch on. Obviously, they're almost not certain to be locked in to the 5th seed, but that's where I think they end up. And then they play the Titans or Jags. I think the Jags, pretty good opportunity. The Chargers get you at least 2, playoff games. So I don't know about you or what you think, but I think we've seen the Chargers ADPs kind of move up a little bit, and it's getting harder and harder to get those guys, as late as I would like if I'm drafting a second quarterback.
Yeah, Eckler's way up there now. Yeah, you used to be able to. You could do like an Eagles stack, like top 3 or 4 players there, and get all Chargers. And then run it back with all the Chargers. And I think the Chargers are. They could be like this last year's Bengals team, and make a run. So they might have like an easy, like if they're playing Jaguars to open up the wild card, like that's a pretty nice game to get going, and then maybe one of these other teams gets beat up and they go into round 2, and like anything can happen there. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
at least
yeah,
for advance rates, right? I think the Chargers are going to be absolutely massive for, the first and second round
yep.
advance rate because should be Chargers. Maybe it won't. We'll see a lot of crazy things happen in the NFL, but I'm thinking, Chargers, Jags first round, and then it's probably going to be again one of those three teams: the Chiefs, Bengals, Bills. And there's points to be had. There's going to be, a little bit of shootouts in those games. So at the very least, I'm looking at some of those guys in and we can kind of touch on this as well here is this one-off stuff. So I don't love doing this too much. But if it's someone like, obviously not Eckler anymore, but call it Josh Palmer late or Mike Williams has been really good that I think, just if I have this exposure to the Eagles, which I do, I have to add these guys like Mike Williams, Godwin, Mike
I think
Evans,
I think
guys
that's
like
where
that.
Baltimore comes in when you go Eagles
And
too. Like
yeah,
Andrews
again,
is always there, and Dobbins. Like you can get Dobbins in the 10th round a lot of times, so where it's like perfect if you go Miles Sanders and you only go one other running back. Like that helps you. Yeah, like you're banking on Dobbins to have a good round one game, and like that's a great possibility.
yeah. So you can see, obviously, my that's what I've been thinking a lot with my Baltimore Ravens exposure, and obviously with the amount I have Philadelphia. So I'm trying to pick that secondary team, and usually I do, I because the ADPs line up where you can stack Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. Hopefully you're going to get some good production at the very least for the 1 week before you can ride your number one seed guys. Hopefully to the finals is kind of my thought process there. Plus, the ADPs of the Philly players are kind of suppressed because they're most likely to be getting that number one seed.
Right.
And, it's tougher to build your roster around those guys when you're going to get zero production out of them in the first round. So,
Yeah, and I think that's why you want to do like a 2 to 3 man Eagles kind of core, and then running back kind of mainly AFC players, because I think that's going to be more unique if you get that team out of the first round. You're going to have some leverage along the way, and if you get that team out of the second round, like you're going to have major leverage if the Eagles are in the NFC Championship game. So, yeah, those are all things that I'm considering. I think the hardest thing right now is the Bills KC, like that situation.
mhm.
If we knew who was the locked in as the 1 seed and who was the number 2 seed, say like uh, the Bills take the number 1 seed, like Mahomes should be the 101 for sure. Kelsey probably like the 102, like, and then all Chiefs players are going to go way up because you're going to get extra game, and they're like one of the top 3 teams, Super Bowl odds right now. So, like it sounds like Bengals are your team. That's the team you love. That's basically anytime I can start Chase Burrow in my draft. So
Mhm.
I actually prefer to get like the 106 in these drafts, if I'm being honest, which is
Yeah.
a weird feeling. But once I know the AFC, who is the number 2 seed locked in, and then I'm going to want the 101 because I'm going to want that QB. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to know. But I also think with the Bills and Chiefs, you can also like if now it's hard with the gauntlet because it's $25 an entry, but so it will cost you $50 to do this, but you draft like a mega stack of the Bills, like 6 players or whatever, and you do the same with the KC side, 6 players, and you just hope one of them, whatever one, is going to be the second seed. Then you're going to
Yeah.
have like this crazy powerful team moving on, but it's better to do in the mitten when it only costs you $5 each way, so $10. It's kind of a nice value in my opinion.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm having a hard time drafting any. I have some because you got to have that kind of exposure, but I'm having a tough time, just sinking everything into one NFC quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
where you might be bust, right off the hop if whichever one of these three teams, because realistically they do all have a reasonable shot. The Raiders looked pretty good last week, against the Niners at home. They're playing the Chiefs at
Mm-hmm.
home. They should lose. The Chiefs should definitely get that win. But would anyone be extremely shocked if the Raiders go out there and pull off an upset in that game? I wouldn't be. So, it is possible. I think that's the most likely team, the Bengals, to not get the number one seed. Obviously, looking at the rankings here,
Mhm.
but it's still it makes me. I'm not gonna lie, it makes me a little nervous drafting one quarterback from the AFC. That's another reason why I have so much Jalen Hurts, because I know they're the number one seed. I know how to plan for that for the rest of my draft. That's just kind of how I've been approaching it.
Mhm.
I've been approaching the Chiefs like they are the number one seed, but it may not work out that way. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
so I'm not like the Bengals fan like you, but I'm looking at it like I think they're the best team in the AFC. Like if I'm
I
being
agree.
honest, and they might have like a crazy hard path to get there, but I'm fine going Joe Burrow like as my QB. Like he could be 101 pick in these. Like I don't see any reason why he couldn't be. Like I don't understand why he's fallen to the second round a lot of times. Just things like that. Just because people are making this ADP and just like repetitive draft, and he's falling in certain place. I honestly think like you could go Chase or Burrow as 101, and like that's my favorite one to get right now. If you get the 106, you get Chase and Burrow to start, and then you hope the next turn you land Higgins and Mixon. Like there's four players locked in, and you have like a top four team Super Bowl odds. And I think they're a little bit better than the Chiefs, and they're going to give you an extra game along the way. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I can't say I disagree with any of that, especially as a Bengals fan. But it's it is. I think it's true. Like they definitely look like the best overall team, offense and defense in the AFC. They beat the Chiefs already 3 straight times. We've beaten the
mhm,
Chiefs, so I'm not really concerned about the Chiefs. If I'm being honest, like yes, they're a tough team, but I extremely like the Bengals' chances to get that win. So this is a we'll go through a couple of examples here. This is a draft that you and I did actually last night, just randomly. We didn't
mhm.
plan it at all. We just ended up in the same draft, and this was out of the 6 hole. I kind of forced your hand by taking. I think I took Jalen Hurts at the 5. And then I can't remember. I think I probably went with Lamar Jackson there later on. But either way, this is a perfect example, and why I wanted to screenshot this and show everybody an example of a team and a roster construction that makes just a ton of sense. Because when I looked at this, honestly, it just makes nothing but sense to me. So you obviously went with Joe Burrow there to kind of ride to the Super Bowl, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with
Mhm.
that plan. You back it up with the, backup running back. Unfortunately, obviously, you'd rather get, Joe Mixon, but it is what it is. You got the, bring backs on the NFC with Dalvin Cook and Elijah Mitchell. And then you have the same teams at your wide receiver position there to back up your Bengals, Chase and Boyd. So, this just makes an absolute ton of sense to me. You're hoping for obviously either a Cincinnati, Minnesota or a Cincinnati, San Francisco Super Bowl. If that hits, you're going to be looking pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean maybe like Samaje gives you like some leverage along the way too. I think
Mhm.
Elijah Mitchell, like he's a good pick right now. Like you should probably try to take him in the 10th round if he works for your builds right now every time. I think like 49ers are like they just seem like their NFC is going to be an NFC championship game in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to draft actually a lot more 49ers. I'm a huge Eagles fan, so like I try to throw like all that bias out the window. Like I I mean, if the Eagles were the number 2 seed, and I knew that, I would be all in on Eagles. Like they would be all my top rankings, everything, but they're not. And actually, my most highly drafted team is the Cowboys and the Bengals. Like those are the two that I've just been drafting nonstop. And maybe the Cowboy. Like it's hard for me to draft the Cowboys, but even more now, like they're people are down on the Cowboys, so they're falling even more. Like which
Yeah.
is which is crazy to me. Like I don't I get like Tampa's had some impressive wins, but they all been like these crazy comeback wins, and everything has to go right for them. And I just don't like the Bucks are that good. So I think the Cowboys like that's going to be a crazy fantasy point game, and then they're going to get rolling. And yeah, I guess they would play the Eagles in the second round, maybe the Cowboys, which I don't like that, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, I agree. Those are the two teams that I'm kind of, secondary picking. It was Minnesota, and who knows how this draft went, and these guys probably fell into your lap a little bit. Obviously, Dalvin, you got 10 picks, so more than 10 picks passes ADP, so that's easy peasy. But yeah, those are the two teams, the Bucks and the Cowboys that I'm trying to, bring back with, a lot of Buffalo, Chiefs, Cincinnati Bengals and things like that, where I'm picking, one or two guys. You're getting at the very, very least two games out of one of those teams, the Bucks and the Cowboys, right? So I agree. Those are two teams that I'm looking at, and that's a game that I'm looking at. Same thing with like the Chargers against probably the Jags, and I'm taking just Chargers on that
Yep.
one.
Yep.
But the same sort of thing. I'm looking at those games because I'm very confident I'm going to get two games out of those players. So
yeah, that's going to be the key once everything locks down and we know all the seating. Like once we know that, we can even strategize to a whole different level in these, and that's where it really gets fun.
Oh, I got a little aggressive here on this one, but this is just another kind of example of a team that you can look different ways to build it out. I got a little aggressive, I think, with Justin Herbert here, but it's the same sort of thing that I was saying about Jalen Hurts. Is I'm having the Chiefs as the number one seed in this build. So got a little aggressive with Justin Herbert, but I think this one worked out in the long run. I think I'll be okay. Obviously, so I wanted to touch on this one because Christian Watson, you see there at the bottom, that's a guy that I'm just hoping, obviously Green Bay's got to make the playoffs. I think that they probably do. And then he should have, hopefully he's the number one receiver, has a good matchup. That just might be a guy that pushes this team into the second round. In my head, that's how I'm making up for that kind of, reach on Justin Herbert. If it works out, I'm going to be a hero or the GOAT on this one. If it works out, awesome, and I make it to the second round. If it doesn't, then I probably shouldn't have reached on Justin Herbert. But I just wanted to show another example of a team where you can build it a little bit differently. Obviously, I'm hoping for a Kansas City, San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl. If that happens, I should be in a pretty reasonable spot. It doesn't happen a ton where you get Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce in these drafts.
You're right.
So I wanted to kind of show this one. And yes, I did get a little aggressive with Justin Herbert, but I'm going to take that risk and then hope that Christian Watson pushes me into the second round. But what are your thoughts on a build like this?
No, I really like that build a lot because you got 3 Chiefs and 3 49ers, like, and all good players. Like those are all 6 players right there. You're set up. Like that's a very likely Super Bowl. That's probably one of the top, 4 Super Bowl scenarios, like in Vegas, that are you bet that's that's a good bet. And I really like Barkley as a one-off. Like I don't do a ton of one-offs, but Barkley is always one of my one-offs. I just feel like they're gonna have to rely on him. Like, and he's especially at the running back position because running backs are kind of tough in these, in my opinion. So you saw mine where I went Pirine, but then I had Cook to offset that, and you only need one running back, so it's not like crazy. Like I get McKinnon's like been crazy running back lately, and like he's kind of finally his ADP showing what he's done. But I really like Barkley paired with him there. And maybe you only get 1 week, but maybe he's the difference where he bumps you up into first place, So having him and Christian Watson, like you said, I think Watson's a super sneaky one-off, just because Underdog is it's only half point PPR, and we've seen Watson like 2 touchdown games, not out of the question. Like Green Bay could be getting hammered in the first half, and he has to make a play, So I really like that. I don't mind doing 1 or 2 one-offs. So like I would consider this team the Barkley and the Christian Watson one-offs. I think Herbert and the Mike Williams is kind of like just giving you some help there, and maybe they push you into the second round and one of them scores for you in the second round too. So I like that build a lot. So no shame in that one.
That's kind of what I was going for. And actually I didn't reach. I actually just looks like Justin Herbert fell into my lap, almost 10 picks past his ADP there. So that's pretty handy. But yeah, Barkley likely to be locked in against the Vikings. I'll take Saquon Barkley in a dome against
Yep.
a weak Vikings defense in the first round. That's the only reason you're wanting to pick Saquon Barkley, is to push you into first place to get you into that second round. And that's kind of what I was thinking here. Get 2 games out of the Chargers as well. And hopefully Christian Watson is that one guy that can push me to the second round, because that's really all I'm hoping to do, is get into the second round, and then the Chiefs kind of take over with, again, the 49ers, and hopefully it pushes me to the Super Bowl, and that's a quite likely Super Bowl. So we'll see. That's just another strategy that I wanted to kind of touch on quick. And then last thing we'll show here before we jump in a draft, James was kind of show me the first place mitten 2 team this was from last year.
Mitten 2 last year. So
yeah.
So
I don't know if you remember ADPs.
I don't have like all. Oh yeah, the ADPs, like none of these guys followed ADPs. I don't think. I mean, Cooper Kupp maybe and Chase, but other than that, like a lot of these.
Those are probably your first 2 picks, Kupp and then Chase, or
yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. Yep.
So this one obviously worked out perfect. You completely just banked everything. Every player on this team is either Cincinnati or the Rams, and I would imagine you're probably one of the only or the only team in the finals to have a complete team, of Bengals or Rams. So
yeah, the only team that could have beat me was like I needed Burrow. Like I didn't have Burrow, right? So that was the only side that would have kind of beat me up. But
his advance rate just wasn't that good last year for Joe Burrow. So
this whole team was not a good advance rate team. Like every round, it snuck by like a couple points. One time, I think it even by like a half a point. Like I think I don't remember which round, but it was super close. And I think it was the week like the Gabe Davis. Was that the second week? I don't think it was the first week, right?
And you kind of needed Gabe Davis to advance.
Yeah. And I think no one in that pod had Gabe Davis or something. It was something weird that helped this team actually get there. So once it got to the finals, I knew it had a pretty good shot. Like I knew it was kind of the favorite.
It was meant to be then, if no one had Gabe Davis, to be honest, because he had a big game. So and that's something we want to touch on kind of pre-show. We were talking about was luck plays a big role into this thing. It's not, with season long, it's a lot more luck. With the playoffs, there's a little more skill involved here, because you got to take like that team right there. You galaxy brain that, and not a lot of people had the Bengals and the Rams. Even me as a Bengals fan, I certainly didn't have my Bengals in the in the Super Bowl last year. So, kudos to you. And luck plays a role in it. But in these playoff best ball formats and drafts, it's a little more skill involved. We were kind of talking about a pre-show.
Yeah. And I think it is a lot of skill, because that team right there, I was probably in that draft. I was like, okay, I go Cup or whatever, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a Ram stack with, I probably wanted the Bills or KC, but I probably got sniped on all those players. So then I'm going the Bengals route, and I was like, all right, I'm all in on the Bengals and Rams now. So like even this year's drafts, like the same thing could happen where you're trying to build out this perfect team with these teams you have in mind that you want on that team, but then you get sniped on a couple players, and then you have to quickly adapt and like, all right, I'm all in on the Chargers now. And that could lead to something like this. Like, I mean, the Chargers could make the Super Bowl. Like, I don't
say Chargers Cowboys Super Bowl.
Yeah, who knows? So I would, that was the best advice I'd give, to don't get discouraged in these drafts. Like if you have guys in your queue and they're going right before you, quickly adapt and go a different direction, and it might actually give you some leverage along the way.
Don't chase and force the stack, because you said it in your head that that's what you're going to do. You can always switch it up, bend a little bit, move things around. And don't go into a draft with a plan. But I think you have to know what position you're drafting in, first, second, third, up to 6, right? And then you can, I should be able to do this. This should happen, but you never know who's going to go, first. I saw Stephon Diggs go first overall. I saw CeeDee Lamb go first overall. So
I Actually, a month ago, I was taking CD Lamb first overall all the time.
There you go. Crazy stuff can happen, right? So go in with a plan, but be ready to adapt and change it on the fly. That's for sure. But yeah, you ready to jump into a draft here? Or
Oh yeah, we should, because we've been talking 45 minutes and
that's a little longer than I thought it was going to be, but I
yeah.
appreciate your time here. That's for sure.
No, I honestly could talk about this stuff all the time. I just love the strategy of it and just like the ins and outs. And when I talk about it and somebody sharp like yourself and you're drafting, I learned from you a lot. That team that won last year, like I had to learn to get to that point. Like it wasn't in me to do a seven, Rams build with a 3 run back of the Bengals. Like that wasn't in me. That took me a lot of time to get to that point where I would risk something like that. So I usually
Yeah.
play it a lot safer. But yeah, it's kind of a shout out to Justin Herzig. Like we've had a lot of conversations about that, and he's kind of, we have a lot of conversations about best ball, and some of the stuff I still push back a little. I know he's more of like, hey, only draft 4 running backs in regular best ball, and yeah, we have that battle, and I think he got a team into the finals with 4 running backs. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's smarter than me.
Yeah, and Best Ball Mania won, the original Best Ball Mania winner. So
Yep.
he's a guy I'd like to get on the show at some point. I honestly can say I don't particularly love drafting with Herzig. Every time you see his name, if he's, it's not that bad if he's far away from you in the draft. But I've drafted with him once, I think, so far in playoff best ball, and he was the pick right before me, and just time after time sniping me. I'm like, God.
See,
So then you're forced to, 30 seconds
oh,
to scramble and figure out a new
mhm.
plan.
I actually like enjoy drafting with players like him more so, because I don't feel like I ever get sniped when I'm drafting with him. Like I know
Oh,
what
geez.
I can just look at his first 1 or 2 picks, and I could probably tell you like the next 6 players he'll take.
Well, he just beat me to the punch to the kind of secondary guys.
Yeah.
Like he beat me to the punch on Tampa Bay Bucks, and I was just like, God, snipe, boom, just takes Godwin right before me, and he's down in ADP. So
Mhm.
I'm like, all right, I should be able to get
Mhm.
Godwin here.
Uh,
Boom, Herzig swoops in
so
and
hopefully
snipes
he's
me.
in this draft, and then you'll know. Like you'll
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
Don't draft. He's going to take these Tampa Bay guys.
Oh, I've seen it. I think twice so far. Maybe only just the once. But if you're ready, we'll jump in here.
Yep, let's do it.
1, 2, 3. There we go. We should be good to both be in here.
Do you want me to jump in then? Oh, I thought we were all right. I thought we
Or
were
you can
gonna.
you could just draft with me. Let's do that. Actually, let's do that if you'd rather.
I can jump in if it doesn't fill. Let's see.
It's completely up to you.
All right, one more.
Completely
I'm
up to
in.
you.
So
Hopefully, we're not side by side, and then we'll have to kind of. It might hurt the commentary a little bit. We'll see how
they
it
might
goes.
they might cancel this draft because we're just helping each other out.
Yeah. It's weird. I saw my exposure says I have 33 teams, but I only have 32. So I'm not sure if I had one kicked out. Maybe that CD Lamb first overall team got kicked out. But um,
I honestly don't think they could kick teams out here unless you're taking like Jared Goff in the first round or something like stupid like that. But
right,
like,
it's just too it's too
like
volatile that no one's wrong.
you honestly could take like Kirk Cousins first round. Like it
Yeah,
could work out for you. Like
yeah.
it's not crazy off the wall.
It would be hard to justify canceling a league or a draft in playoff because there's just not very many variables realistically as
So
far as players are concerned and teams and things like that. So you got your wish and you're 6-7. So we'll see who lands in your lap here. This is I honestly don't love being third. I'd rather be the 101 and probably just go right now. I'm loving Christian McCaffrey at the 101. So we'll see if he lands to me at the 3.
yeah, I've been drafting more McCaffrey like anytime in like the top 4. And then I just put all the 49ers in my queue and I just build out like if I can get all of them like Debo and Kittle and Ayuk and then Purdy, like I'll just start all 5 of those guys. That's how
Yeah.
I'll start my draft. If I can get all 5, it's really fun. And then you just hit the AFC side.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. I got lucky with it. So that's what I'm doing.
I did a draft like a couple hours ago, and the guy at the 6, like I was at the 5. I took Chase, and Hertz was on the board, and he took
Yeah.
Hertz and Burrow. That was one I was kind of ticked at, but
Yeah, that one hurts. So you're gonna get your wish here. I think probably know how you're starting this one.
yeah, like that's just too easy of a start in my opinion. Like
Yeah,
it's just like it's going to help you advance out of the round, and it gives you a really solid, easy chance to build out a nice stack. But I have way too many of those stacks, so that's why I've been going more 49ers lately.
yeah. That's why I have a lot of Cincinnati. Anytime I'm that late, 5 or 6 in these drafts, I'm pretty much, unless somebody takes Chase before it gets to the pick 5, I'm going Bengals. At the turn, almost 100%. There's really no reason to think twice about it, if I'm being honest. Man, I kind of want
You
to.
can, you can snipe Higgins. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That will show us like how to offset, and then I'm going to go 49ers. Just
that's that's what I like to do here. So I do this all the time with these. If I'm the third or second pick and I get McCaffrey, I'm bringing it back with unless Kelsey's there for some reason. If Kelsey's there, I'll take Kelsey.
Mhm.
But realistically, I'm not taking another NFC team that high. So to me, there's no choice. It's either Kelsey or Higgins, unless you want to reach for Jerick McKinnon or something like that. But
Yeah, I also think that taking McCaffrey first, it kind of sets you up for that. Like your second round pick can be a nice AFC piece, like maybe a running back or probably not a running back. You go McCaffrey, but a nice receiver. And usually those 49er guys will probably fall back to you on the third.
yeah,
Like sometimes you're going to get Debo. I think Kittle's probably just as good right now. He looks like he's on fire lately.
yeah. So again, if Kittle's there, he's pretty much my number one. But then if he's not, then I'm pretty much always going with T Higgins in that
Yeah,
in that sort of a build.
now you grab Debo and you still have a chance
Yeah,
at Kittle
easy
too.
peasy. Yeah, easy peasy. Go ahead and pick another 49er here. It's pretty structured right now, so we'll see if anything gets a little wonky a little later on, which I'm sure it will. But there goes Eckler, like we were talking about earlier. Like his ADP, I think, is 18, and he's there at 13. So this guy's going with Dallas. We just talked about it a few minutes ago. Dallas Chargers Super Bowl is essentially what this guy's going for. And can't
Well,
particularly
who
blame
did
him,
he
right?
take first? Did he take Allen first?
Yeah, Josh Allen, and then
Yeah.
at the turn there. So
No, I don't know if I love that. And you're going with Eckler with Allen. Like I don't love that at all.
yeah, I don't know if I would have went that route either, if I'm being honest. Now that I see he had Allen, I thought for some reason it was something else. But yeah, I don't particularly love that either, if I'm being honest.
I didn't mean to snipe your guys there, but I just like the 40. I'm trying to get more 49ers if I'm being honest. So
No, it's all good. We're gonna have a weird first round in this one, because we're obviously both building out San Francisco and Cincinnati. But I might just pivot a little bit here, and we'll see who ends up still being there, sort of a thing. But oh man, I'm next even so.
yeah, I almost went Sanders and Goddard, but then I just went the 49ers route.
I kind of got to go with Brock Purdy here, unless no, I don't yet. Oh, goodness. Well, I'm going to mix in a little bit of
Yeah, I like that.
Buffalo, just so I'm, hopefully I get 2 games each out of Cincinnati and Buffalo. So that allows me, like I said, to pivot a little bit. I can hopefully maybe get another Bengal later. We'll see what happens there. I'm not going to reach on it, but
I think that's risky though in your case, not taking Purdy there, because if you don't get him, I feel like your build's kind of broken.
if someone between my 2 picks wants to take Brock Purdy, then so be it. So now I take him 100% here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I do a lot of that too in these, and it allows you in these only 6 team drafts, is you kind of force a hand. It's like, hey, if you want to go ahead and and reach on this guy to screw me over, so be it. Then I'm not gonna stop you, sort of thing. So if someone wanted to reach for their second quarterback as well, that was the big reason. Everybody between me had a quarterback already. So if you want to do that, then go nuts. Geez, this is
So you're gonna probably want AFC. You probably would want to go with the Bills running back. I would say like James Cook's a decent add to that team.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Or I was looking at Dawson Knox, but I think I don't mind. Yeah, I'll do that. I don't mind that. And then I'm probably going to be done at running back.
That's the way I play it. I'd even be done at QB.
I'm probably going to be done at maybe I'll take another running back. We'll see. I'm not going to force anything, but I think I'm going to just go 49ers, ride out Brock Purdy, unless one of these quarterbacks just slip, into the 40s, 50s, then maybe I'll take a shot on that to hopefully get out of the first round. But I'm not too concerned about that right now.
Yeah, and I kind of put myself in a hole here with the running back position. So, like, that's probably where I'm going to be looking for maybe a one-off because I have no running backs right now.
And I got sniped with Dawson Knox there.
Yeah, you could come back with McKenzie.
Yeah, I could. I think I might. I'm going to wait on that and go ahead and just hope for 2 games out of Godwin. And then, wrap it up there with hopefully no one snipes me on McKenzie. But your running back situation's looking a little slim, eh?
Yeah, that's all right.
KC.
Make it work.
You got late round San Francisco running back.
Yeah, and Zeke's one of my most highly owned players too. So that's an interesting too. Like here, I could go Fournette. It's like I could go Zeke Fournette, and then I'm guaranteed a player in the second round too. Like I've done that before.
Yep.
But I'm not going to do that here.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You're guaranteeing yourself 2 games out of I'm not sure I'd call them both elite running backs, but you're getting 2 games out of 2 pretty good running backs that should at the very least help your advance rate in both the first and second round.
I timed out, but yeah, oh well.
Oh, it happens. It happens. Hopefully you get an upset.
No, I mean, it was a guy I had in my queue. So I always have guys in my queue. Sometimes I'm going to time out. Like, I don't hate the pick. Like, I'm building a Bengals kind of nice stack. And I still have options for my Bengals. Like, I could go Hayden Hurst still and
Pacheco.
P. Ryan. So,
or P. Ryan, sorry. Yeah, not Pacheco. Jeez. I was looking at him there. But I think, okay, there you go. I got to go with keep the Buffalo train rolling. Yeah. I got to lock him in here. So let's go with Isaiah McKenzie. How's this board looking? 2 more picks. It's my first time doing a draft on stream, so I definitely am a little bit rusty on this. Or not rusty, I guess, just I've never done it. So, yeah, I'm not loving my team, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I don't know if you are either, but we're having fun. So...
I mean, I think your team's decent. I mean, you got the 49ers build out 3, and then you got the Bills with 3. So
yeah,
I mean, then you got your Godwin one off and like T Higgins. Like you got guys that you're playing in that first round. So you got the best running back. So like, no shame in this team.
No, that's fair. That's a fair point. It should be advancing. So maybe I'm hoping it'll be advancing. What do I do here? Jeez, I think I'm just gonna.
You're on the spot.
Continue down this road, and now I'll be done at both of those positions.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'd tell you. Maybe you want to throw some guys in the queue there, but
yeah, I normally would, but I just I didn't feel like I had time for it, to be honest with you. That's another good tip for people is certainly use your queue. Normally I would, and in season long, my queue is usually just plastered full of players and stacks that I want to touch on. But right now I gotta just keep it between the ears here. So 2-2. Where are we at? You just went P. Ryan Hurst. Yeah, build out your Cincinnati Bengals. That makes nothing but sense.
Yeah, those guys are always free at the end.
Yeah.
So if you ever do drafters, there's actually 12 rounds, so it's a little bit more fun. And tight end, you have to draft a tight end, so it's like more strategy over there too.
Yeah, I do like how they do it with man, I think I'm just gonna take a solo Lamar Jackson here just to hopefully push me into the second round. If I got McCaffrey playing, Fournette, Godwin, I don't know if I trust Brock Purdy to.
I mean, you could do like the Jennings or Eli Mitchell. Is Eli Mitchell there?
Oh,
Elijah
Eli
Mitchell.
Mitchell is there. Yeah,
Yeah, that's probably what I would do.
That's not a bad. That's not a bad one. I thought you were gonna go with them actually there, but
Oh, I didn't realize you had Fournette. So yeah, you probably didn't need 4 running backs. My bad.
I don't mind that, to be honest. It's a little bit of a different build. And if the 49ers do get to the Super Bowl, I have done that a little bit here and there, taking McCaffrey and Mitchell, just because obviously we've seen McCaffrey be a little bit fragile. So
this is one thing I do like. Like if I was doing that, I wouldn't take James Cook or Fournette. I would just take McCaffrey, Mitchell, and Purdy. Like just those 3, and then you have 7 spots at receiver. Like it kind of gives you, for one, you got McCaffrey is the best running back, but then you have insurance on Mitchell. And if you're hoping to go to the Super Bowl, you're covered. If you saw my team that we showed last year on the screenshot, right? I did that with Akers and Sony Michelle. And it kind of covered you regardless of what guy was getting the touches. So
yeah, no, that's fair. This is 100% the most running backs I've ever taken. I've never taken more than 3. But I get that's another, it's another thing about being a little bit different and trying to get unique and build it out a little bit differently. You never know who's going to be the guy that gets you over the hump. And if we see an injury to McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell's there, then you never know what's gonna get you to the promised land, sort of a thing. So. Yeah, I don't know. I don't love this team, if I'm being honest with you, but I've probably drafted worse teams than this. But yeah, no, that's pretty standard. Honestly, there was really not many surprises with this draft, so I think that one was pretty smooth.
Some drafts you're getting guys still taking 49ers. You'll get guys like doing Green Bay stacks and Jacksonville stacks, stuff like that, which is fine. Like they probably are, Green Bay and Jacksonville, but I don't think they're going to win you big money down the road. So
yeah, like I said, we kind of talked about in the open there. It's pick the teams that you think are going to the Super Bowl, and then you can pivot between those kinds of teams, right? Like you're Cincinnati Bengals, San Francisco 49ers, Dallas, Philly. You got a little bit of everything in the NFC. So if the Bengals make the Super Bowl with almost any team that should in the NFC, you're going to have a reasonable shot. Similar thing, if I get the 49ers in the Super Bowl with, Buffalo, pretty much just Buffalo, then, I might have a decent shot here. So yeah, I don't see much of a point. I understand trying to get unique. If you want to do that with the Chargers, I can get on board. Even the Ravens, I can probably get on board. But if it's, the Packers and the Jaguars of the world, I don't think I can get on board with that one personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I appreciate your time tonight, James. I really do. Thanks for coming on. I'm glad we could finally hit the best ball streets together and get chop it up a little bit. So I really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad I got to be in your first best ball show, which is that's great. Hopefully somebody learns something from us, and maybe they'll dip their toes in best ball waters now. So that's all we're trying to do.
Absolutely. So yeah, like James said, this is the first show of many. We'll probably have a little bit of a break. I may or may not do one next week once everything is kind of in stone and we know where the seeds are at. I may or may not do a show next week, depending on to be honest, it depends on the contests on Underdog. So we'll see on that, but I'll definitely be looking to have you on again throughout the off season, James. This will be a weekly, every Wednesday, this will be a best ball show. So I'll definitely hit you up to come on again. But if you want to remind the people who you are and where they can find some of your work, and like we talked about in the open, definitely worth a Twitter follow handle right there. Go follow James Eagles on Twitter, but let the people know who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, and just James Brimacombe Twitter, and yeah, basically just all best ball on there. That's what I like to talk about. I just like to kind of share all my kind of thoughts and findings. And I try to get people to be more open minded when they're drafting. You don't always have to just follow ADP. Be a little different. I think value drafting is a big thing during the season. During these playoffs, yeah, you just want to build out those cores. Super important. If you're getting sniped along the way, uh, yeah, don't get frustrated. Just finding a different path, and yeah, in the end, it could be crazy good leverage for you, and that team could be your favorite in the end. So, yeah, appreciate you having me on, Cody, and yeah, I'm sure I'll see you in the lobbies.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, tune in next week. If or potentially next week, keep an eye out on Twitter. If not, we'll see you in the off season. Keep an eye on the channel for a lot of off season draft content. Hit up the Roto Heat Discord in the top right. Underdog Fantasy promo code all caps Roto Heat, and we'll see you guys.